Yesterday, the federal government announced it would accept Saskatchewan's own carbon pricing plan for large emitters. It's one that focuses more on incentives than penalties. Now, this doesn't affect most of us, as we'll still have to pay the carbon tax at the gas pump. But after years of jurisdictional disputes between Saskatchewan and the feds over carbon pricing, some see this as significant. Now, to break down why, we've reached Jason Childs. He's an associate professor of economics at the University of Regina. Jason, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So we talk about large emitters. I guess who exactly would this be that falls under this new provincial plan?
So under the existing provincial plan, we had most of the big emitters covered already. This adds pipelines, natural gas pipelines in particular, and electricity generation. Those are the two big adds here that are now going to be under this umbrella program for large emitters.
Now, the province says this will save industry here about $3.7 billion between now and 2030, as industrial carbon taxes are going to be staying here. So how much of an impact will that have on our provincial economy?
I think it could have substantial impact. I mean, to have the money stay in the province and generating activity in the province, whether it's on the research and development side, the commercialization of technology side, all of those things are going to be positive for economic activity. Also, it means that the management is going to be more tailored to the needs of the province rather than the needs of the country as a whole or the industrial heartland in Ontario or Quebec, say. So there's a lot of benefits to being able to target what we're doing to our specific industries and the specific problems we're going to have here, as opposed to having policy written that's really designed to fit more Ontario or BC or other jurisdictions.
And I'm curious why you think Ottawa might have accepted this plan and if it'll actually work.
Well, it depends on what you mean by work. I think it's the design of the plan. Again, we're still waiting for a few more details to get all the nuts and bolts exactly in the right place. But it looks like it's going to be focusing more on intensity targets and providing benefits if you beat your intensity targets and penalties if you don't, and allowing different options within that, such as paying for offsets, counting carbon capture and storage, which hasn't always been the case in the federal plan. So doing that now, I think, is going to be a big boon to our industry and maybe develop a technology or help commercialize a technology that's going to be saleable around the world. So all of those things are going to help us, and whether or not it works is going to really come down to the details. What are the benchmarks? What are the baseline cases? How are we actually implementing this? And that still remains to be seen in terms of pinning down those exact details.
And given there's been so much resistance from the Saskatchewan government to carbon pricing, what do you think this tells you about the provincial government's position on it now?
I think they've accepted the loss at the Supreme Court, and this isn't, the way it's being spun. Oh, it's not a tax. Well, it is in fact a tax. Let's be honest. It just has different provisions, just like an income tax. If you allow RSP deductions, that doesn't mean it's not an income tax anymore. It just means you've got this extra piece added onto it. So it's a carbon tax. Politically, that's awkward for the Sask party government. But it's an acceptance that this is going to be imposed on us one way or another. So we may as well try and make the best of it within our own jurisdiction.
And do you think this will lead to maybe more made in Saskatchewan plans getting approved from the feds now?
That's a hard, your guess is as good as mine on that one. Until very recently, this federal government has shown absolutely zero interest in allowing regions to experiment and go their own way beyond the cannabis file. So on the environmental file, there's been zero interest in this broad-based experimentation and other implementation beyond a carve-out for Quebec's with its carbon trading scheme. So I hope so, because policy tends to be better structured and better designed when it's done closer to the industries that's being regulated. The downside there is it's always subject to political gamesmanship, and there's always the risk the Sask carbon capture and storage program, or the large emitter program, is going to be captured by the big emitters. That's arguably happening at the federal level anyway, but that's always a risk.
All right, Jason, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.